home for podcasts and original music.
The Zagnif One Radio Network.
Are taking on the number 21 Texas Longhorns. I'm still wondering when they're going to be back. Sam Ellen just said they were going to be back like 3 years ago.
Just comes to mind on that list that you're like, like this, they could shock the world. Nathan,
you want this?
Nathan, wait a minute, stop it, Skip.
How are we looking at this? Is this a walk off or is this going to be like the Florida game?
Bama by 3 touchdowns.
Here we go. Get your popcorn ready. What's the big thing?
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, and welcome to this week's edition of This Week in SEC Football. I am Anthony Handy.
I'm Sean Spencer.
And we're here to talk. We got some stuff to talk about this week, y'all. If you watch any SEC football this week, you know a lot of stuff happened. So we just gonna, a lot of stuff happened.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah, we had quite a few things happen, man. You know, hey, so how you doing, man? How you doing, brother?
Doing well, man. Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm stoked. It was a crazy busy week at work, but I'm stoked to talk about this. A lot of people have hit me up and said, "Hey, man, you're doing big things. We're looking forward to seeing what you guys continue to bring to the table." So thank you to those of you that have shown your support. And I would be remiss without going ahead and giving a shout out, first of all, to our sponsor. Yes, we have a sponsor, DJG Enterprises and Greek Gans. They can get you custom laser engraved tumblers and custom made Afghans. You send them a picture. Of what you want. They can put it on an Afghan. You send them the specifications of what you want on a tumbler. They can laser engrave that bad boy on a tumbler for you and get it to you most Ricky Tick. Thank you so much. They sponsor every episode of This Week in SEC Football. Hey, man, you ready to get into it? Let's go.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. So we just gonna start. We're gonna make this real easy. We're gonna start with the light work. We got a 1 p.m. game on the SEC network. Arkansas, who was 3 weeks ago, Arkansas was the darling of SEC football. They were like that team that like everybody's like, oh my God, they're so cute. They doing so well. It's like, look at them taking their first steps. Oh my goodness. Like they were, I'm serious. Like everybody was uber stoked to see Arkansas. I mean, even me, you know what I mean? I didn't want them to beat us, but I was stoked for Arkansas. I wanted to see him do big things. Pittman had those guys motivated. He had them dedicated. Like Herman Boone said, they were mobile, agile, and hostile. They were out there doing work. And then they played Georgia, and it has been a backhill slide ever since. They have lost 3 straight, and all 3 of those are conference games. But they're taking on University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff.
You're welcome.
Who is 1-5?
Right. There it is.
But this should be
you need a game to watch.
Seriously, this should be the redemption game right here. For this should absolutely be the redemption game for Arkansas if they don't step up and beat UAPB. I mean, what does that say for the program?
Right. Do you think there's any chance that they won't step up?
I definitely don't, man, because I don't care what you say. Jefferson is a baller. KJ Jefferson, their quarterback. I mean, you saw him in the Texas A&M game. He was hurt. He got hurt. And it wasn't a serious injury, but he was hobbled enough for the coach to make him sit for a minute. And you could just see it on his face. He just wanted to get back in that game. The guy's a competitor. He's a baller. It's just like Matt Stafford separating his shoulder, going back and throwing the game-winning touchdown. He just wanted to get back in the game. So put me in, coach. I gotta go. And even in the game against Ole Miss, I forgot how many yards he threw for. He threw for like well over 300 some odd yards in that game in a loss. He's a baller. It's just circumstances of the situation were more than they could overcome. So I think that this is the game that at least they need this game, because if they don't win this game, or if they let UAPB play them really close, and they really don't have that much defense. I mean, between them and Ole Miss, they put up 100 and some odd points.
Right.
If their defense lets UAPB play them too close, or if they win last minute on a last minute fourth quarter play as time expires, or if they don't win this game, I think it's definitely time to pack it and they say, okay, Arkansas, we loved you. We were all rooting for you, like Tyra Banks said. We were rooting for you. I gotta get that video clip.
Yeah.
But you were a little more overrated than we thought. I mean, we gave you a gimme on the 3 teams you lost to because they're all ranked, but UAPB 1-5.
No excuse. No excuse.
No excuses whatsoever. I mean, their starting quarterback the UAPB's quarterback has a 46.3 completion.
Oh, wow.
Percentage.
Wow.
He hadn't even thrown for 900 yards yet. He's like at 827. And he's only thrown 2 TDs and 4 interceptions. That's where they are. That's who they're playing this coming Saturday.
Right.
So that's 1 p.m. on the SEC network. University of Arkansas Pine Bluff travels down to Arkansas to take on the Razorbacks. I think it'll make for some interesting television because there's a lot of teams with bye weeks this week.
Yeah.
So it might make for some interesting television if you gotta get your football fix. I mean, there's other teams playing, but for those folks that are strictly SEC watchers, I think this will be, the juice might be worth the squeeze. Now, here's the games since we're coming up on week 8. Here's the games that they have remaining. Arkansas is playing Mississippi State on the 6th of November. They're at LSU on the 13th. They're at Bama on the 20th. They play Mizzou on the 26th of November, and then that's it for their schedule after this game. Honestly, I'm at the point where I'm going to start making predictions, and if you could take dictation for me, or I got my notes, but if you take dictation for me,
I'll write it down right now.
I'm putting Arkansas at 8-4.
Okay.
I don't see them. Well, Mississippi State, I take that back. It might be 7-5, and I tell you why. Because Mississippi State, Will Rogers, we still can't discount Will Rogers. We'll talk about him a little bit later on, but we talked about him last week. And then LSU, I say 7-5, maybe 6-6. And we'll talk about LSU later. And we'll talk about why. Now, here's the big thing here. The biggest thing about Jefferson, he's got 1,463 yards. He's thrown for 11 touchdowns. His O-line needs some work because he's been sacked 10 times. Now, I'm not putting any faith in UAPB showing up in Arkansas and sacking Jefferson all day long. But their defense has given up 175 points this season. Now, to be fair, the bulk of them were against 3 ranked teams. They gave up 37 against Georgia. They gave up 52 against Ole Miss, and they gave up 38 against Auburn. So their opponents are averaging 29 points a game. Now, I don't think with the quarterback that's only thrown 2 touchdowns all season, I really don't think that he's going to be setting the world on fire down there in Arkansas. But you don't want to give a team like that a chance to sneak around and do like Georgia State almost did Auburn. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm giving
like
the edge.
Tulane in Oklahoma.
Man.
Right.
So I am giving the edge to Arkansas in that one. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Arkansas welcomes University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, 1 p.m. on the SEC network. Moving on to our next game. Now, this is the one. This one bears some watching. Because the honeymoon is over with Coach O. And we'll talk about this. We'll get into that in just a second. But officially, LSU is 4-3. Ole Miss is 5-1. Now, Ole Miss has got Matt Corral, who can beat you with his arm and his feet. He's actually he's their leading rusher and he's their leading passer. And there's not a whole lot that can be said about. There's not a whole lot that I can say this week that hasn't already been said about Matt Corral. He's still in the run. He's still in the running for the Heisman Trophy, despite that loss to Alabama. So there's a lot to say there. They got by the way, so they have this. They're honoring Eli Manning that weekend. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about that. Wow.
So they got this thing where they're going to have instead of Ole Miss in both end zones are going to say Manning. Archie's going to be there. Peyton's going to be there. Arch is going to be there. And I think that is kind of I think they're putting on a little bit of a dog and pony show to try and to coax Arch to come to Ole Miss. Like, yes, come to the dark side of the force.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's probably the most highly recruited high school quarterback.
But that's probably started at birth.
In the country right now. Well, I mean, his last name's Manning, but just because his last name's Manning doesn't mean he's going to be a world beater. But when you got a dad and an uncle who have a granddad, well, I'm just saying, dad and uncle got 4 Lombardis between them.
Yeah,
granddad never got a Lombardi.
Granddad carried 2 franchises on his back. He gave the Saints the first victory and turned them from the. He didn't turn them around, but he gave them everything they had. Archie, he is so underrated because of what he dealt with. But if you go back to college, though, Archie is legendary at Ole Miss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We got some comments coming in. I'm gonna have to look at them here. Donnie, what's going on, man? Mike Langland, Benji, Chris Yella, those of you all that are watching, thank you all so much for tuning in this week in SEC football. I am Mr. Fingers. That is my co-host, the Shout Out King, Sean Spencer. We're here right now talking LSU versus Ole Miss. So they got this whole big dog and pony show going on for Eli that weekend. So Ole Miss is going to come out hype.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's some stats. A lot of people are like, well, what's the big deal about Eli other than the fact that his dad's name is Archie? He still holds the passing yards total record at Ole Miss and touchdowns. He threw for 10,119 yards while he was at Ole Miss.
Wow.
That's over 2,500 yards a year. That's assuming he played all 4 years, because I wasn't tracking him like that, so I don't know if he left in his junior year or whatever. And 81 TDs. That's, assuming the 4 years again, that's 20 TDs a year. So, what you got going on here? So, did I say a few weeks ago when they played you that they were overrated? Yes, Donnie, you did say that. You did say that. I'll say it, but I wanted to root for him. Listen, I was a skinny, scrawny dude who wore his pants up past his shin bone. I went to private schools. We had uniforms. My pants used to get up past my shin bone because I get a growth spurt in the winter. So every year by the spring, my pants is up past my shin bone. I was a nerd. I've been wearing glasses since I was 11 years old. I got picked on a lot. So I know what it's like. I mean, I got a lot of fights in school. I know what it's like to be the underdog. So anytime I see somebody that's an underdog going to come up, I'm like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. Live. You know what I'm saying? That's all I want for you. That's all I want you to do. It's just thrive.
Yep.
Like Jeff Goldblum, you crazy son of a bitch, you did it. That's the kind of thing I want for them. But yes, they're turning out to not live up to the hype. He also won the Maxwell Award in 2004, which to me is kind of the consolation prize of the Heisman Trophy, but it has become a very, very big deal. It's a good bullet point on your resume. Like I said, the whole family's going to be there for this event. So Ole Miss is coming out hype. Now, Matt Corral, we already know the deal with Matt Corral. He is absolutely ridiculous. Ole Miss is second in the SEC West, number one. They've got one loss. Bama's got one loss. Right. So they have to stay on the winning track in order to at least stay on Bama's back in case Bama falls short. They had that big win over Tennessee last week. I mean, that was, I won't say it was a big win, because to say that would indicate that Tennessee is better than everybody thinks. And
we see how mad the Tennessee fans are.
We go get into that in a little bit. We go get. You know what's funny? You want to know something funny? I stumbled across. I have some exclusive footage that I got from a Tennessee fan that was a little upset about how things went with the game last week. Ladies and gentlemen, if you give me a second, I'm going to share this footage with you. So here's the exclusive footage of the interview interrupted by the angry Tennessee fan. And as things would, hold on a second. I got somebody, dude, what do you, man, I'm in the middle of doing a podcast right now, bro. No, man, I'm doing a podcast right now. You need to get these. Did you really just? This really happened. This really happened. I can't believe this.
The best part is that he stares at you from the door, just like.
It just gave me that. It just turned around like, say
great.
something. And say something else.
You still got the mustard? You still got the mustard bottle? Do you have the mustard?
Oh, man, I got rid of that mustard bottle, brother. And it was way past the expiration date. But, oh,
just
man.
Just like them, huh?
You said it. I didn't. Anyway, we keep back to what we're talking about. Oh, man. Stop it. Skip Bayless. You're not going to sit there and do that to me today. We're not having that. Uncle Shake got a lot to say, but he can hold it for later. So they got that. They get the win over Tennessee was, well, for Ole Miss, it was huge because they're still trying to stay on Bama's heels. But in terms of the overall scheme of things, it wasn't that big a win because they were supposed to be Tennessee anyway. That big defensive fourth quarter stop, that basically was huge because their defense had given away. Ole Miss's defense is giving 30 points a game. 30 points a game, which is more than Arkansas, and we see how Arkansas is. And their defense is giving up 181 points this season. But Matt Corral is sitting on a 66.3 completion average with 1,728 yards so far, 14 TDs, and then one pickle, 7 games, impressive, and 8 rushing touchdowns. Like I said, he basically is the offense. He's basically contributing about, I want to say, over 50% of the offensive output with his arms and with his feet. Yeah. I think that this one is probably going to be a shootout because Max Johnson, 61.3 completion average, but he's got, Pete, this, 1,863 yards and 20 touchdowns. He's got 4 pickles and he's been sacked 14 times. But then he's got that running back backing him up, Kayson Boutte. I think that's how his name is pronounced. And if I mispronounced it, my apologies. Who's got 5? Yeah, right. It's Booty, man. It's Booty, man. Come on, bro. It's bout, yo. It's bout. Right. Yo, stop it. Yo, my family ain't French just because I play. Well, it probably is Boutte because it's Louisiana, you know. It's Cajun, you know. Go Tigers.
Might be.
Yeah, and their defense is giving up 28 points a game, but they're 199 points given up so far this season. So I think this one's going to be a shootout. This is going to be like Heineke versus Favre, like you guys talked about on Monday. It was Monday. By the way, the Let's Talk Football podcast hosted by my man right there.
Did you say Heineke versus Favre?
Yeah, I know they didn't play in the same era. I'm just saying they're a couple of gunslingers.
Oh, okay.
I was just asking. Listen, I know Favre is like 182 years old and Heineke's like 25. Yeah. I was just saying they're a couple of gunslingers. It would be like Heineke versus Favre or the shootout at the OK Corral. I'll be your Huckleberry. You're no Daisy. You're no Shrinking Violet. That's what it would be like. That's what's going Why Johnny Ringo, if I thought that we weren't friends anymore. I don't think I could bear it. You may go now. Anyway,
right.
I'm giving the edge to Ole Miss in that one. The edge goes to Ole Miss. They come in with all the momentum. They got this superstar stud quarterback who can beat you two ways. I don't think LSU's faced anything like that quite yet. But I will say this. LSU is going to be hyped up for their man, Coach O.
Yeah.
Because he's still got juniors and seniors left on that squad that were there from that championship year.
Right.
So
yeah,
and now
they still put up 49 a week ago in a high scoring game against Florida. That's an emotional game to go down to the wire. You know,
I told you, bro.
But I mean, to your point, they're fighting for Coach O is what I'm saying.
They're fighting for Coach O at this point. You dig? So there ain't a whole lot you can say about that. Now, Coach O, what I don't know exactly what to say about Coach O. Well, I know there's a lot that can be said about Coach O, but for those that are unfamiliar, for those of you that didn't realize he was a coach until he won a national championship, he actually took over midway through the 2016 season. So he's been there for, this would be his fourth full season as their coach. If you missed the news, it was announced earlier this week, I think on Sunday, matter of fact. It was announced on Sunday that LSU and Coach O have decided to mutually part ways. He will finish out the remainder of the 2021 season. He did say he did about that. He said, basically, this is our team, and I want to finish the job this year. I got a job to finish this year. But the question at this point is that going to be a great motivator, or is it going to be a distraction?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you got these guys, his guys he's had there for a couple of years. He's had juniors and seniors for 4 full years. He's got sophomores that are playing in their second year. And they might not be too broken out with him because they got the new Coach O that got the big fat contract and got divorced and then the new girlfriend and all that stuff. But is it going to be a motivator or is it going to be a distraction? Because now you got the cameras following and you win a national championship. I said this last week. You win a national championship, it's all eyes on you. Yep. And, you know, all this stuff is coming out. Like, I don't know if you heard the story about he had girlfriends, plural. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they would and they had kids and they would bring their kids and he would have them in line with the team running through drills. If you're a college player trying to give everything you can to get your shot at the pros, how do you feel when you got lined up behind little Johnny for Oklahoma drills?
That's unprofessional. That's disrespectful.
You understand what I'm saying? There's also it's also rumored that he made a hard press on a woman who is married to a high-ranking LSU official.
Oh wow.
I mean, he's been out there. He got that contract, and him and his wife split up, and he's been way, way out there. So is it going to be a motivator or is it going to be a distraction? That's where he has got to decide. He's got to buckle down and decide, hey, I'm going to see this thing through to the finish. Or either that or his senior guys, his juniors and seniors are going to have to rally, his team captains, and say, look, regardless, we came here to play. We came here to win. Right. Let's make this happen. Right. In the wake of that, there have been some players that have decommitted. Some have transferred, and I'm pretty sure there will be more. Because you think about that. You live in Louisiana. You see a Louisiana school win a national championship. Now you're like, I want to go play there. I want to go play for that coach. He's probably recruited some high school kids pretty heavily. Recruited some kids pretty heavily. And now they are probably only on family fun days. Is that acceptable? Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that, bro. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just you guys got to figure out a way to make it happen. That's the other thing. Like, these kids are going, well, if he's not going to be there, I'm not going to want to be there. And with the transfer portal being what it is now, would be different if you had to sit for a year, but now you can transfer and play immediately. I think you're going to probably see some of his underclassmen transfer out, and they're probably going to see some decommissions. So now the onus is on LSU. Yeah. They got to pay Coach O $17 million. And then they got to come up with a salary to pay a new coach. And they're going to want to get a coach the kids are going to want to stay and play for and come and play for.
Exactly.
So that's going to cost them a pretty penny.
LSU's they're no small school. You know?
They are no small school. They definitely are a small school, and it's gonna be a little bit of a tough route because here's who LSU has left on schedule. Guess who they play next week?
Uh-oh.
The
Alabama?
Crimson Tide. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm about to say.
In Alabama.
Yeah.
In Alabama. Not next week. They have a bye week next week, but on the 6th, they play Bama. Then they play Arkansas on the 13th.
Ooh.
Then they take
Yeah, Arkansas still's no slouch. I mean, they put up 51.
And then they got a little bit of a gimme week with Louisiana Monroe on the 20th.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then they close but then here's the kicker. They close the season out with Texas A&M. And that was going to hurt. So that's where they are with that. And then you've got these recruits. Now here's the thing. One guy entered the transfer portal. This is exactly what I'm talking about. He's an underclassman, and he's only had 5 receptions for 71 yards. But he's like, nah, I'm out. I'm not gonna hang around for that.
That's interesting.
I saw wide receiver Coy Moore in the transfer portal. I'm like, ooh, snap. I wonder if he's a big loss. Nah, they're good.
No.
I mean, he might turn. Right now they're good. He might turn into a stud someplace else, but right now they're good.
Yeah.
I got that quote wrong. He said specifically, I could have stepped away, but this is our team, and I wanted to finish it.
Gotcha.
So now on the flip side of that, what about his legacy? I mean, he's only 21 months away. Think about that. If you had a kid, Sean Spencer, and your fiance had a kid in January of 2019, your kid's probably only been walking for about 7 to 8 months.
Oh yeah.
Still doesn't know how to tie their shoes. Still got to be changed. Might be potty training and still needs help eating. So it's a blink of an eye. So. And it's the first time I've ever seen a coach win a championship, except for Gus Malzahn, win a championship and then get the can.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he's still got a chance to at least go out with a bang, but he's got to figure out a way to motivate his team.
What do you think he's going to do? I mean, do you think he's going to try to give him one last hurrah and, try to beat Alabama and run it out and see what he can do? Or do you think it's just – all right.
I don't know. I don't know because I really didn't know a lot about Coach O until he took the team over. And then I learned more as they became prominent a couple of years ago. But what I did not know is this is not the first time, because a lot of people behind the scenes have come forward and say that he's only as good as his coordinators. And that he's only as good as his coordinator. Because you see what happened. Joe Brady, they won a national championship. His coordinator, Joe Brady, took off. And ran, and now he's working under Matt Rule with the Panthers. Yeah. So, and you see how non-productive the offense has been since then. I mean, they're still figuring out ways to make it happen, but it's not like the Joe Burrow. Man, I tell you what, you see my hat. I love me some Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is all right with me. So he's got to figure out a way to do that. Now, I'm going to give you a what-if scenario, and then we're going to come back and talk, and we're going to talk about it later on in the show. What if LSU figures out a way to beat Ole Miss? And then turn around the next week and beat Bama?
I mean, that'd be crazy.
I mean, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I'm going to let you chew on that because the SEC West right now we'll get into that later. Right. We will get into that later. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, welcome to This Week in SEC Football. I am Anthony Handy with my co-host, the Shout-Out King, Sean Spencer. We're on here every week on Thursdays. We are sponsored by DJG Enterprises and GreekGans.com. We got some more segments coming up later with another sponsor. We're going to give them their shout-outs a little bit later. But for right now, we're going to keep this thing moving on to our next topic. And we talked about that, how he resigned. $17 million. Good Lord. I need to find a job. He's the second highest paid coach in college football behind Saban.
Really?
Yeah. Man. Saban's making like 9 something, and he's making just over 8. I need to find a job where if I get fired, could you imagine how many people would be looking for work if they knew they would get a severance package when they left?
Right.
Could you imagine going to work at McDonald's and then, you know what I'm saying? If they fire you, you get a full year salary and you already clocking 60 hours a week.
Didn't you say the get back coaches make six figures?
Yeah, the get back coaches.
Go ahead and do that for 2 years.
Think about that. Hey. So what do I gotta do? So I got it. So I just get in front of him and tell him to get back. No, man, you gotta grab him by the back of his pants. I gotta what? Yeah, you gotta grab him by the back of his pants. You mean I gotta on national television? I gotta grab a grown man by the pants by the crack of his ass. I mean, what happened if my hand slipped down in there and I get a little, I don't want none of that. Like that but I don't think I want this. Wait. I don't think I want this job. Well, the job pays about 257 to 300,000, upwards of 600,000 a year. Oh, say word? Yep. When do I start?
Yep. I wear gloves.
Oh my gosh. So that is, once again, ladies and gentlemen, Ole Miss bringing LSU into Oxford at 4:30 on CBS. We're gonna move on to our next game, and this is the one I've been wanting to talk about all week.
Oh yeah,
Tennessee versus Alabama. Tennessee, surprisingly, at 4-3. Alabama, as we know, number 4 in the country at 6-1. This is at 8 p.m. on ESPN. It looks like it's gonna be a little bit of a humdinger. To get you.
Yep, I love it.
It's gonna be a little bit of a humdinger. Wait a minute, one more time for the to get you. I'm gonna have to take that. You know how they had those videos where somebody makes a noise and they turn it into a song?
Yeah.
I want to put that on Holla Back Girl.
There you go. Holla Back Girl.
To get you. Anyway, so you guys saw what happened last week. I don't even have to explain it to you. I mean, the guy even said, "Who brings a bottle of mustard?" He said it himself on national television. I said the same thing on the. Oh, I'm sorry. The interviewer in that video clip we saw said the same thing when that angry Tennessee fan broke into the studio. But Tennessee, basically, this is a win that they gotta have to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah.
Bama, this is a win they gotta have to keep their playoff hopes alive. The big difference is there wasn't a lot of expectation out of Tennessee this year. Mm-hmm. And for Bama, this is kind of do or die because even though they have managed to make it into the playoffs with 2 losses, not into the college football playoff with 2 losses, it's too top heavy this year. I mean, there's absolutely zero way with Cincinnati undefeated right now, with Georgia undefeated right now, with Oklahoma undefeated right now. There's no way that they could justify putting in a 2-loss Bama who lost to A&M and Tennessee on top of that if they were to lose, or LSU in a scenario that I put forward. There's no way they could justify putting them in over, say, a 1-loss Ohio State or a 1-loss Ole Miss. No way. No. Absolutely not. This game going on at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Tennessee's defense, they're not too terribly bad as far as the points per game where I threw that out. They're only giving up 22 points per game, but all 3 losses were against teams with winning records. They did not lose to any teams with losing records. Basically what that tells me is they're not beating teams with winning records. They're beating up on the losing teams. Mm-hmm. I mean, they lost to Pitt, they lost to Florida, and they lost to Ole Miss.
Yeah. Pitt, I will say is they're good, but the other ones are yes.
Pitt's got 1 loss. Florida, I think is Florida still ranked?
I don't believe so. They've got a couple losses.
No. And then Ole Miss, of course. Right. Ole Miss, who is ranked at Lord, I forgot to look at the number there. Ole Miss, who's number 12 in the nation right now. Oh wow. So I doubt that they're going to beat Ole Miss, but and when you look at their record against winning teams, they're giving up 40 points a game. Oof. And we already know that Ole Miss can light it up. Matt Corral is gonna, not Matt Corral, Bryce Young. I'm sorry. We already know that. I said Ole Miss, and I'm still stuck on Matt Corral. Bryce Young is second in the SEC rankings in terms of quarterbacks.
Yep.
Brian Robinson, he's fourth. You got that double duo right there. There's not much more you can say about that. They haven't scored less than 31 points this season, and that 31-point game was in a loss to Texas A&M. Wow. So they're scoring 31 points or more every game, and Tennessee is giving up 40 points a game against teams with winning records, and a Bama team that still ain't really lost to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I hope they got some good health insurance.
Right.
I do. They're averaging 45 points a game right now. Here's some of the drawbacks to Alabama. This is not one of their strongest defenses in the Saban era. They've given up 141 points. But that's still 20 points a game, so that's not too terribly bad.
Right.
He's got those kids like locked in and focused. Right. Dude, they beat Mississippi State last week. If you don't believe me, how focused they are. Will Rogers threw for 300 yards last week.
Oh, wow.
Now, normally when you got a quarterback throwing for 300 yards, he's got at least 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State scored 0 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah.
So they let him fling the ball all over the field, but they kept him out of the end zone.
Yeah.
That's how focused they are. 9 whole points. And the edge is to Bama in this game for me. Yeah. It's a non-starter. I got a question for you. You think Tennessee will even score?
Yes, because I think the score is going to be up that high. I think the backups will be in. So I think Tennessee will get in that way. I don't think Tennessee's going to put up much of a fight, but I think they'll score in garbage time. Like, that's where I think most of those yards came from Rodgers and garbage time when the game was over, and they still couldn't score.
Right.
So
I got to be completely honest. I don't see Tennessee scoring. To be really honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Saban didn't pull his starters until like halfway through the fourth quarter.
Oh wow!
I think he wants them to. I think he wants them to just get run over. Because Saban. Now it's a good thing that this game is at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and not at Neyland Stadium. Because we saw what happened last week. But I can definitely guarantee you, any Tennessee fan thinking about sneaking some stuff in,
you're not gonna let him do
it. Security is gonna be all over you like white on rice. That's just not happening. Dude, that was absolutely crazy. Listen, man, that game happened last week. I'm watching this footage and I'm going, is this really happening? Because I wasn't watching the game because it was a late game. I had just tapped out. But I saw on my Google that it was delayed. I'm like, what, did a freak storm blow through or something?
Right.
And then of course, the next morning I'm looking and I'm going, oh my God, that's why it was delayed. Man, the memes have been hot and heavy this week, bro.
I believe it. What you got?
Oh man, just wait. Here we go. These are the memes that I'm in several SEC groups.
I love it. I saw that one.
These are all the memes these are just some of them. I didn't snag all of them.
I like that one.
It's been crazy. And I'm still,
yep. Oh, Colonel Mustard.
Colonel Mustard in the student section with a water bottle. Now this one, I need to pause for a second. This one made me crack up on any of the rest of them. It says the University of Tennessee is attempting to locate students in attendance at last night's game against Ole Miss who were observed throwing objects from the stands onto the field. It is important to understand that students identified will not face any consequences for their actions. We just need a quarterback really bad.
I saw that one.
If you have any information that will assist in this search, please contact the University of Tennessee Athletic Department.
I like
Man,
that.
oh man. And then
Oh.
close it back out with old big head Peyton.
Oh yeah. You already know
Wait
it.
a minute. Oh, good God. Man. So yeah, I'm giving the edge to Bama in that one. Oh man, speaking of Bama, I got an article here I gotta share with you. This was interesting because I looked through some stuff. Here. Did you know that after that game, one of his freshman players decided to go on Instagram and tweet, "Yeah, nah, I'm over it. I'm calling it quits." The receiver's name is Ajayi Hall, and he was mad because he didn't get no playing time.
Right.
But see, he doesn't understand the assignment, as the song said. He doesn't understand the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
God, that sounds just like Justina Valentine, but it's not her. I don't know who she is. It sounds just like Justina Valentine. He was in the game, but he didn't get targeted at all during the game, and he was just pissed off. He's only gotten one catch for 10 yards so far, and that was in the season opener against Miami. And he was pissed off, and so he went on and he sent out this tweet or whatever they call them on IG. I think that once Coach found out about that, because Saban don't play that. Saban does not play that at all.
There's many more where you came from.
I would be surprised. I don't know. I don't think that Saban cut him from the team, but I guarantee you he ran up and down every single set of steps in Bryant-Denny Stadium or at the practice facility. I guarantee you he did a whole lot of up downs and suicide drills. Because do
you think he even wasted his time with that though? If this guy is saying I give up and you're on a team that's most likely going to be in the national championship, I don't have time for that. I got 50, 60 other players that will gladly take your spot.
Yeah, but one thing that we know about Saban is he is a great motivator where his teams are concerned. I've not seen him ever not motivate I mean, seriously, think about it. I don't think he's had a season with less than 10 wins.
Yeah, but he also doesn't take. You also mentioned that he doesn't take any stuff. So he is like Belichick, where stuff getting out in the media, that is the opposite of what he wants. So this guy tweeting and trying to make himself above the team because he's all about team. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna put up with it. I think it's like because when you tweet this stuff, I'm not getting any attention. Oh, we won by 40 points, but I'm sorry, I'm not getting any love. I think it's gonna be an issue.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think he's going to at least because he's a freshman. And while Saban is that guy, I mean, I believe he understands that this is a kid that's 18, 19 years old, probably never been away from home, might not even have any home training at all. And he wants to try and motivate him to be better than that. But I guarantee you he got one of these from Coach.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
I guarantee you he got one of those.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's what we got going on. That game, 4-3 Tennessee against 6-1, number 4 Bama, 8 p.m. on ESPN. These are the remaining games for Bama. The following, the 6th, I think it's a lot of teams on bye weeks next week. They got LSU on the 6th. They got New Mexico State on the 13th. They're playing Arkansas on the 20th, and they're playing Auburn on the 27th. On the other side of the fence, Tennessee is traveling to Kentucky on the 6th. And then we visit Neyland Stadium.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You can play them. Y'all better not be doing that to get you. Try that if you want to. You don't want Jordan Davis coming up in this. You don't want. Hey, listen, Skip Bayless. Let me tell you something. The last thing the Tennessee fans want to see coming up them stands, 6'6", 340-pound from McDonough, Georgia. They call him Big Baby. That's the Mr. Fingers call him Big Baby. He gave him that nickname. I told him, Mr. Fingers, you go ahead and give him that nickname. They gave him that nickname, Big Baby Davis. You don't want none of that man right there. Oh, he's gonna come up in there and get some of y'all. I'm just saying. Anyway, And then they play South Alabama on the 20th. And then they travel to Vandy. They're probably going to be an empty stadium. There probably will be way more Tennessee fans than there will Vanderbilt fans on the 27th to close out the season. So that is Alabama versus Tennessee. Good God. Oh man, we've been talking about a goodly amount of stuff today, bro. We've gotten a lot out in a little bit.
Definitely.
Speaking of Vandy, Mississippi State will be playing Vanderbilt at 5 p.m. on the SEC network. Good. Thanks for coming to the TED Talk. I'm giving the edge to Mississippi State just because of Will Rogers. I mean, I think he's going to pass the 2,500 yard mark. He's actually, I think, leading all of NCAA football right now.
Wow.
Or is it just the SEC? I think it's just the SEC. But I think he's going to pass 2,500 yards before the season is over. 338 is his magic number, and trust me, if there's a team for him to do it against, it is definitely Vanderbilt. Up on their slate after that, they play Kentucky on the 20th. They travel to Arkansas on November 6th. They travel to Auburn on the 13th. Then they play Tennessee State on the 20th and close out the season with Ole Miss. There are a lot of Thursday, Friday games here too at the end of the season. And then on the flip side of that, Vandy has Mizzou on the 30th, Kentucky on the 13th, Ole Miss on the 20th, and Tennessee on the 20th, playing in Tennessee on the 27th. That's what we got for that right there. Oh man. So let's see. Where are we now? Sean? What's going
on? Can you talk about Tennessee and Alabama?
I know where we at, man. I just
where
are we at? I was speaking in the existential sense of where are we? Like,
oh yeah, let's talk this week in SEC. Let's go.
Oh man, it's been a good week so far. Been a good week. So our next game, we've got 7:30 on the SEC network. We got the Gamecocks versus the number 17 Aggies of Texas A&M, who are on a tear. They have won, but they won their second straight last week. So they're 4-2. But South Carolina, surprisingly, 4-3 after that.
Really?
Yeah, they got the 4-3 with the win over Vanderbilt last week.
Yeah, wow.
South Carolina on deck, Florida, Missouri, Auburn, Clemson. On the Aggie side, Auburn, Ole Miss, Prairie View, A&M, and LSU. The edge here is going to the Aggies. We've talked about Zach Calzada. When their starting quarterback got hurt, they're like, oh, God, there goes the season. Calzada's come in. He's only thrown for 1177, but he hasn't played the whole season, so that's not bad. Little concerning. He's got 10 touchdowns, but 6 interceptions. So then you got C.J. Spiller in the backyard, 659 yards and 4 TDs. The defense got 21 sacks and 7 interceptions. So that one, I'm giving the edge to the Aggies. That's about all I got for that one. There's not much more you can say about that. They're going to be playing in College Station with the 12th man. It's going to be a whole big deal. So that one probably worth the squeeze if you feel like watching a late game, if you're not watching the Bama game. So that brings me back to what we were talking about earlier. The SEC West is still wide open.
Yeah.
It's still wide open. I've got right here. I've got the SEC West standings in front of me right here. So right now, at the top, we got Bama with a 3-1 conference record. Then you got Ole Miss right behind them at 2-1. Auburn is at 2-1.
Really?
Then you got the conference records now. A&M is at 2-2. LSU is at 2-2. Then you got Mississippi State at 1-2, and Arkansas at 1-3. Now, if going back through my notes here, I like to put my notes to the side when I get done with them. I should probably learn to keep those close because you never know when you're gonna need them again. Skip. It's called preparedness.
Oh yeah.
So right now, Arkansas has 4 conference games remaining.
Right.
Arkansas could, if they went on a run, could win the conference. Okay, because that would mean they beat Bama, because that would mean they beat Bama, which would give Alabama a second conference loss.
Right.
Okay. That would depend on how some things shake out. Then you got Ole Miss, who if Bama loses and Ole Miss runs the table, they win a division.
Oh.
LSU has got Bama and Texas A&M left on their schedule, and they only have 2 conference losses. They've got 1, 2, 3 conference games left. So if they win out, they could finish at 5-2, which would give them a victory over A&M and Arkansas.
Oh, wow.
So they could potentially win the division. Then let's see, where are we? What are these other games we got here? Mississippi State, actually right now, Arkansas is the only long shot.
Okay.
But everybody's got a shot at it because, like I said, Mississippi State only has 2 conference losses. If they they would need for Bama to lose.
Yeah.
But if Bama lost and Mississippi State beat Kentucky, because they got Kentucky, Arkansas, Auburn, and Ole Miss. Okay. Vandy's in the East. That doesn't count. Vandy's not going anywhere, so I'm not worried about them. Tennessee's in the East, so I'm not worried about them. Now, Bama is the odds-on favorite.
Yeah.
Bama's the odds-on favorite to win the conference, win the division. I keep saying conference. I better shut up with that, because Georgia still got some games left to play. But that's where we are right now. The SEC West is wide open. So, I mean, gun to your head right now, if you had to say
Bama.
No. Take Bama and Ole Miss out of the equation. Let's just say Bama and Ole Miss managed to trip over their feet. So, gun in your head, you still got Auburn, A&M, LSU, Mississippi State, and Arkansas left. Who do you think would actually be the one to make that move?
I guess you'd have to say A&M because they got the victory over Alabama.
I mean, strictly just because they got that victory. I'm just saying, with all these games left to play, you think A&M would be the one to make that happen?
Well, I think with the schedule that you said that they had, I think they don't have all the other teams having Alabama in the future. They don't have that, or Alabama or Georgia. I don't think, I think after you got into the mat, unless they have a letdown, A&M, they're hot right now.
That's true. That's very true. They've got the hot hand. But again, like I said, LSU, motivation for coach.
True.
They could go on a tear and they could wind up winning out. And, they've still got I think they also still have Bama on their schedule as well. So,
yeah,
that's what we got there for that. I got an article right here and I forgot what the source was. But even then, they were saying Auburn still has a 3rd highest chance to make the playoff in the SEC behind Georgia and Alabama. Now, this article was posted. Today's Thursday. It was posted Tuesday, so this article was posted this week. This is not an old article, so they're still saying some group called 538.
Okay,
that Auburn Tigers have a 3% chance to win the SEC and make the college football playoff, which means they still have an opportunity to do so.
Wow. Well, I think that goes back to your question that you asked a week ago about Bo Nix and if you believe in him. Like, do you believe in him?
I'm still shaky on Bo, man. I want to believe in Bo.
Mm-hmm.
I want to root for him. I want to root for him like Tyra Banks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I want to believe in him. When I hear that scripture, you like to say the race is not given to the swift, nor the battle to the strong.
Mm-hmm.
Blessed is the man that endureth for winning. I'm not going to preach today. I didn't come here to do that. This is this week in SEC football.
If the Spirit leads you. It's the Spirit leads you.
This ain't Bible study at the First Missionary Zion Baptist Second Church by the side of the road Pentecostal Holiness Temple. Did I say Mount Zion? Y'all don't hear me. This ain't that church. This ain't Bible study.
Right.
But I think I want to believe in Bo Nix, but Bo Nix is like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Which one's going to show up, man?
Yep.
He balled out last week. He balled all the way out last week. But then in the game when he was really supposed to show out,
he didn't do it
against Georgia State, that that would have been the state. I mean, don't get me wrong. That would have been the game where they would have had the opportunity to say, okay, they're playing an opponent that, small school, they've only been playing ball for 8 years. This is where we get to see what he looks like in real time with very little competition.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgia State took that boy to the woodshed.
Yeah.
Coach pulled him and made Finley and sat and put Finley in the game. That's the other thing I cannot understand. Now, and this will actually touch on where I'm going after this.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I kind of understand why coach is not trying to throw Finley or not trying to throw Bo under the bus. But on the flip side of that, I'm like, there have been plenty of times where he should have pulled him.
Right.
That could have been the difference between a win and a loss.
Right.
So I don't know if I believe in. I don't think Bo. Let me take it back. I don't think Bo knows. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
I don't think Bo knows.
You don't think he knows?
I don't think new Bo knows like old Bo knows. Like we ain't gonna see. We're not gonna see Bo Nix in the Heisman house.
No.
Throwing toilet paper on the tree. Talk about couch fry.
Right. I don't think you're gonna see that.
But I just don't think Bo knows. I mean, I want to believe in it, but I don't think he knows. So that having said that, we got another game here, Sean. Guess what?
Oh wow. Who else you got?
We tend to forget about our neighbors to the west in the Big 12 that are making their way over.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of, this is where we're going with this. Number 3, Oklahoma, undefeated, 7-0 undefeated Oklahoma, faces off against 1-5 Kansas at noon on ESPN. Okay. OU's averaging 42.7 points a game. Kansas is averaging 16.7. They're allowing their opponents to score 43 points a game. We already know the stats. I run through these guys' stats every week. You hear me say the same thing. Kennedy Brooks is an absolute beast. Them same 6 words every week. Kennedy Brooks is pushing 700 yards. Doesn't have a lot of touchdowns, but every time that boy puts his hand on the ball, the chains move. And then Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has got 609 yards passing in a game and a half.
Yeah. Is he a Heisman contender in your opinion?
Don't get ahead of me.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't know you were going there.
Stay with me, Skip Bayless. That he's got 600 yards, 609 yards passing in a game and a half. Now, if that doesn't sound impressive to any of you watching, Spencer Rattler in the 5.5 games prior has thrown for 1,371 yards. Caleb Williams has already thrown in 6 quarters of football for half the total Spencer Rattler has thrown for in 5.5 games.
Right.
That is impressive. And he's also got, I think, 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns. Seriously. So I'm giving the edge here. And then he's got his favorite target, him and Mims. He and Mims are like Mario Manningham and Eli Manning back in the day.
Right.
I mean, heave it up there, he'll go get it. Or during their prime years, even though, sorry, Cat, Detroit didn't do much with it. Matt Stafford and Megatron.
Right.
Or Randy Moss and he played with several quarterbacks in Minnesota. Just they're simpatico. They're right there. They are one with the Matrix.
Right.
In 6 quarters of football. So I'm definitely giving the edge to this one to OU. Obviously, right now ESPN gives OU 98.6% odds to win.
Wow.
Yes, Mike, Reverend Fingers, leave me alone. Shout out to those of you watching us here this evening. We appreciate you both on Facebook and on the YouTube. If you're watching the replay, we appreciate you. This is This Week in SEC Football, sponsored by DJG Enterprises and www.greekgans.com. Check them out. They will get you all the best in custom gear. They got custom gear there. They do specialize in gear for Greek letter organizations, but if you want custom gear for your favorite team, they can hook you up with that too. There's the contact information right there on the screen. Make sure you give them a holler today. But that brings us to our next segment, which you brought up. With this segment, by the way, is sponsored by our second sponsor, who we were happy to bring on board, and that is 1906tees.com. They also specialize in custom-made T-shirts, but they can also make you, my man Rick down there can also make you whatever kind of custom T-shirts you want, and the price to look nice. I'm going to borrow a slogan from a place back in my hometown. They still open. They used to sell the suits, the Easter suits for Easter, because you know how we like to, growing up, how we used to do for Easter. You couldn't go to church on Easter without a new suit. They used to sell them Easter suits with the Stacey Adams. You go down there and get a 2-piece, a 3-piece suit with a tie, a shirt, a handkerchief, the suspenders, and a pair of shoes, and get it all for like $85. And their slogan was, where the price to look nice requires very little sacrifice. So go over there and holler at my man Rick. And Rick is from my hometown, so he know what I'm talking about. So go over there and see my man Rick at 1906 Tees. Y'all please don't take that slogan, because I'm not trying to bite off of nobody. That's just me throwing it out there. So thank you to 1906 Tees for sponsoring this segment. The Heisman hype train for Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams did not play any football last year at all due to COVID. He was a senior in high school. He came to Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley, of course, took him under his wing as well. He's got a thing for quarterbacks. And basically he played, and he got a little garbage time play in against Western Carolina. He got some in against Tulane. But he didn't, Spencer Rattler was the guy. Spencer was always the guy. We knew 2 years before Spencer came to Oklahoma that Spencer was the guy.
Yep.
Spencer was the guy. Spencer was the guy. Spencer was the guy. That's my guy, and I believe in it. But Red River, he put Caleb in, and I don't think even Lincoln Riley was expecting to see what he saw.
No.
I think he was expecting to give, like he did the year before, put him in, give him a little give Spencer a little motivation to go back in. But Caleb, take a huffle. Hey, come sit down, take a huffle, let him play, get your mind right. And then Caleb went out there in first play for scrimmage, ripped off a 66-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
And then he was like, wait a minute, hold on. That was just one play. Maybe that was luck. Let me take another look. And then he proceeds to take command of the offense.
It's huge.
In a huge way. So then, of course, he winds up getting a starting job. He started last week, and he showed out again last week. So now it's been thrown around, and a lot of people are saying, and I personally, I agree that we need to calm down. We've only seen him play 6 quarters of football, and Oklahoma still has 4 more games, or 5 if you count this one. They got 5 more games to play.
Right.
So, and actually they got to play 2 of which are against some tough opponents. Baylor will get you. They're playing Texas Tech next week. Then they go down and they play Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go to Iowa State. Matter of fact, they got 3. They finish out the season with 3 road trips. Yeah. They're going to Baylor, to Iowa State, and then up. Well, the last one's not that far. It's like maybe an hour. But they're going up to Stillwater to play Oklahoma State. And as we know, Oklahoma State also undefeated in the Big 12.
Right.
Sneaky. I said it last week. The cat is out of the bag now, but they snuck up until last week. They snuck up on everybody. But now everybody's like, okay, Oklahoma State might be legit. Now, of course, knowing what I know from being here, a lot of people are waiting for the other shoe to drop. But right now, as we're talking on this Thursday, the 21st of October, Oklahoma State is a legitimate contender to win the Big 12 championship. Hey, what's going on, chat? My homeboy, Kevin Gardner, we work together at the post office, tuning in to This Week in SEC Football with yours truly and Sean Spencer. We right now talking Oklahoma and Kansas, and actually we moved on from that. We're talking about Caleb Williams. So a lot of people have been saying calm down, but all it takes is one person with any kind of credentials to kind of put a stamp on it.
Yeah.
And I am not surprised that it was Kirk Herbstreit. Kirk Herbstreit was in an interview with the ESPN College Football Podcast on Monday, and he said specifically, quote, I'll be shocked if he's not at New York in the Heisman, end quote.
Well,
so now he basically, and you know how things are. It's just like if something is happening in the Army and nobody knows what's going on with the military. And there's one guy that was in the Army, but he's been out of the Army for 15 years, and he only served 3 years. It's like, well, when I was in the Army, when everybody disappeared, that was when they had taken everybody to Area 51 and tested them for aliens. And then everybody jumps up and goes, oh, there's aliens. See, this guy said it. That makes it legitimate. Kirk has come out and said it. And he said it on the 4-letter network, which even gives it more push behind it. Do I think the kid is a phenomenal football player? I absolutely do. Do I think he's a Heisman candidate? I think we need to slow our roll a little bit. We've only seen 6 quarters. I think he's definitely going to show out against Kansas. If he doesn't, then we could take his name. We could take his name off the invite list.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right now, and actually supposedly, guess that, check this out. He's supposedly now 6th on the list, on the odds list.
Oh, wow.
6th, as in behind the top 5. The other 5 guys that have been playing since the first part of September. He's now supposedly 6th on the Heisman list.
Wow.
I don't know. We'll get a bigger sample size and we'll see. We'll see. So we gotta keep this thing moving. How do you feel about Spencer Rattler and what's going on with him?
I mean, I guess it's next man up.
Yeah.
You know, if this guy, I mean, you got to go with the hot hand. I mean, that's what we've been talking about. You got to go with the hot hand.
True. True. I don't know. It makes me beg the question: is the Rattler era over in Norman, Oklahoma?
Well, what do you think? Because they were the ones that built up this hype, so they're the ones upset about it. But they built this up. You have documented it week in and week out how they have been. You know, since he was in grade school. You're the guy. You're the guy. You're the guy. Yeah. You know, and if you guys didn't watch Anthony, he said it was a story of a shoe salesman that went all the way up through the ranks of being a shoe salesman. He's been doing it since he was a kid. And then he got to a certain point and they offered him a deal and he just didn't want to do it anymore. And so he lost the fire for it. And, you know, he doesn't, you know, you talked about it, Anthony. You talked about it.
I go, wow. I must have been on a roll. I don't even remember. What week was this?
Oh, this
maybe 2-3 weeks ago. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again.
I watch every show, man, like 2-3 times.
But it's the truth. Yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's Al Bundy. I think that was the analogy I used, like Al Bundy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The next thing you know, you find yourself in a house with a wife with an annoying wife and 2 annoying kids and a dog that doesn't do nothing, and you just sit on the couch and put your hand down in front of your pants and go, hey Peg, I don't think I want to sell shoes anymore. You know, it's just like that. But since he was in high school, they've been telling this guy, "You're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You're gonna go pro. You're gonna win the Heisman. You're gonna go pro. You're gonna be a first rounder. You're gonna win the Lombardi." He got the high school. Lincoln Riley. He basically groomed this kid. He's like, "Come to Oklahoma. Yeah. I'll take care of you. You see what I did with Baker. You see what I did with Kyler. You see, we gave Jalen another year to improve his resume to go into the pros. I put 3 quarterbacks in the pros, and all 3 of them have been Heisman candidates.
Yeah,
and I mean, actually, no. Baker won the Heisman, did he not?
Yep.
Baker won the Heisman. Kyler won the Heisman. Jalen was 3rd in the running behind Joe Burrow. But you see what I can do. Come to Norman. Come see the campus. Let me take you around. Let me introduce you to everybody. We're going to roll out the red carpet for you. This kid probably from the time he stepped on campus hadn't paid for a hamburger or a steak or Uber. And I'm pretty sure he's a popular kid. That's about as diplomatically as I can say that. Oh, that was the wrong one, wasn't it? That was the womp womp womp. That wasn't the one I wanted. That was a womp womp. There we go. So,
living on the edge, yes.
Yeah. Oh, damn, that's the wrong one too. But that's where he is. That's the one I wanted. I think that's the turntable. Anyway, this kid has had the carpet laid out at his feet.
Yes.
And basically, he unwillingly, you know how Akeem said, I will go to America and be a poor American student.
Yeah.
Like, but he made that choice willingly.
Yeah.
Like, this kid has had rose petals thrown at his feet in the whole nine. And now all of a sudden, he's just an ordinary, average American student.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes.
And people have watched it. He's got, you know what I mean?
You're absolutely right.
And so, like, what does that do to his? What does that do for his psyche? Like, you know what I mean? So, anyway, at any rate, I wanted to share this with you here. I know you and I looked at this earlier.
Yeah, I saw that.
The first thing, if this popped up yesterday, day before, Spencer Rattler has removed Oklahoma University, and he also stopped following Caleb Williams. You know what I mean?
Huh.
So that's
What does that say, man?
What does that say? What does that tell you? So it makes I got a story. Can I tell you a story? Can I share a story with you? I hope this is the right story. Yes, this is the right story. So I think this Spencer needs to take a page from a young man not long ago who found himself in the same situation. And this name was Jacob. Jacob Eason.
Yeah.
Was the darling of the University of Georgia fan faithful. He was QB1. He was going to lead us all the way to the promised land until the opening game against Appalachian State, where he hurt his leg. And he lost his starting job to some kid whose name also was Jacob. So we'll just call him Jake to keep this. Yeah. So, stop it. We're not Jakob. Okay. I see you. To Jake Fromm, who was only supposed to be a backup, but not only did he back him up, he backed him all the way out of his job because he played so well that he took them all the way to the national championship. And then the following year, I mean, as a coach, you're looking at, you got this kid who was the number one prospect who's hurt and sat the whole year out. And then you got this other kid who just took you to a national championship, who the team has rallied around and has made a team captain. He's like, I got to go with my guy.
Right.
So what did Jacob do? Jacob transferred. He hit the portal. And he wound up somewhere out in the Pacific Northwest playing for the Washington Huskies. No, he wasn't a bad quarterback out there. It's just that he wasn't playing with the same level of competition. He didn't have as many eyes on him as he wanted to look at him during his college career. And as a result, he still wound up getting drafted in the 4th round by the Colts and had to fight for a backup position against some other kid who we'll get into in a minute. Playing behind Carson Wentz. At first, he thought he might have a shot at the starting job until they got Carson Wentz. But this past Tuesday, Jacob Eason got waived by the Colts.
Dang.
And he wound up going not to Texas, but that's who he lost his job to.
Wow.
Sam Ehlinger.
Wow.
Hey, Sam, I got a question for you, Sam. Are you guys still doing the thing down there in Texas or no?
We're back.
And how does the delegation for Tennessee feel about Mr. Ehlinger stating to get you? Your Honor, the defense press. So anyway, I told that story to illustrate how it's obvious that his dad has a huge say in what's going on with him, because his dad came out and made a statement and said, after they win the Big 12 championship and after he wins the national championship, we're going to talk to some NFL teams and see what's cracking. And if they're not interested, then we will explore other options. Right. So it's like his dad has already said, essentially, look, my boy doesn't get his job back. We taking our talents elsewhere. You know, it's like the equivalent of LeBron saying we're taking our talents to Long Beach, except LeBron was already in the league, and
Right.
LeBron had already established himself.
Right.
So this is a kid that's trying to get in the league. I honestly, I don't know what to say as far as that's concerned. I think he let a lot of people tell him a lot of things that maybe he should have just sat down and said, maybe he should have sat down and talked to coach instead of listening to his dad. Not to knock his dad. I don't know what his dad does for a living, but Lincoln Riley coaches for a living. And you do understand that as the coach, with the immense amount of pressure that is put on the coaches to win right now, and if you don't believe me, we just talked about Coach O about 30 minutes ago, that he's got to win. Now, you don't want to destroy a kid's psyche in the process, but he's got to win. And if the best shot for winning the most games, winning the conference championship, winning the national championship, rest on the shoulders of Caleb Williams, then so be it. But I think that situation could be,
Is there any of the onus on on Spencer Rattler? Is there any of the onus on him just not being prepared?
I don't think he could have been more prepared, man. I mean, I've seen him play.
You saw every game. You saw every game this year. The play doesn't lie. You talked about it from the beginning. He doesn't look.
Yeah,
Heisman contention. I mean, even when they put him in Heisman contention, he wasn't that. So
right. I mean, he started out the season as the Heisman favorite
before he even played. And when you saw him play, he was not that good. I don't think he. I mean, outside of the hype, what are we really talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like our homeboy Nate Snell says, trust your eyes. You can take in all the data from everybody else and they say, well, he did this in high school and he's got these stats and he's got that stats. Okay, I know what's on this paper. But I also know what I see on the field every Saturday. And I'm not trying to knock him. I think the kid's talented. I think that with some good coaching and him being open to being coached, which is another thing. I mean, there's a reason why if you take a rock and you take a sponge and you pour water on both of them, the sponge is going to soak up the water. The sponge will benefit from the water. Now, the rock will benefit from it in being washed off, but the rock will not be nourished by the water and fed by the water. Now, of course, the rock doesn't need to be fed. Maybe that's not the greatest analogy, but you get what I'm saying. You can only be a vessel can only be filled if it is open to being filled. And I think, again, you're talking 6 years now, because this is his second year at Oklahoma and high school. 6 years of being told you're the best thing since sliced bread, and then you get to the Big 12 and you find out you're not. That could be pretty damaging.
Well, no, but yeah, I guess my point is just that, like you said, he's been told since then that he was the best, and and in high school the competition isn't that great. That's why you have all these gaudy numbers by certain people. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like, yeah, you're amazing, but what the separation between the high school superstars and the college and the pro, it's the work. It's the hard work, the dedication, the getting there before everybody and leaving after everybody. That's what I'm questioning. Is that something that he needs to maybe work on?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I'm asking you. Yeah.
I don't. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know, because I haven't really heard any reports as to what he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, as a perfect example, a lot of people don't like to talk about him. I wish I had that video clip you like to show so much. But the man that will for a very long time be known as the GOAT of pro football, Tom Brady's been in the league for 20 years or close to 20 years now.
Yeah.
And it is his reputation and his work ethic is well known in the league. First man in, last man out. Takes impeccable physical care of his body, and his self-maintenance, so that he can be ready to play. I mean, how many 40-year-old guys play pro sports, play with a partially torn ACL, and play the whole game?
Right.
If I get up to walk from here to my mailbox and tear my ACL, I'm hollering for somebody, help!
Right.
Pimp down, code 22. Don't tell him it shot me with a 22. Tell him it shot me with 11. That wasn't even 22, it was 11. It was 2 small bullets. Anyway, I don't know if he's got that work ethic. I haven't heard a lot of that. But we see, just based on those actions where who he's listening to, what crowd he's listening to. Because every time you find yourself at a crossroads, you got the folks that are like, man, screw that. If I was you, I just hit the transfer portal and dip out. Screw them guys. And then you got the other guys like, yo, I get it. You wanted to be the man, but you can't be the man without the rest of the team. Let's come together and do this thing as a team. And just his actions this week alone said, Roscoe Jenkins, team of me. Roscoe Jenkins, party of one. That's where he is right now. So I don't know. He might be able to turn it around. I mean, if he's going to still be on the team the rest of the year, we don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, there's still 5 games left to play. Caleb could get hurt, and they're going to need somebody to come in. But we'll see. We shall see. I don't know what to say. I don't know what else to say about that, but we shall definitely see. Oh, man. What is this here? Okay, that's what that is. So, moving on to what looks like will be our final segment. This is the one game that every Georgia fan and every Florida fan waits for with bated breath every year. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party. 6-1 University of Georgia versus 4-3 Florida. TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville at 3:30 Eastern. And I forgot to write down what network it's on, but I'm guessing it's CBS because it's that big of a deal. I doubt very seriously that it will be on ESPN. Or it might be on ESPN. Here's what we got. We got the number 1 defense in the country against the offense, which surprisingly is ranked as the number 9th offense in the country, according to NCAA.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they're averaging just under 7.1 yards per play. They got 33 TDs scored this season and 501.7 yards per game. But on the flip side of that, you've got the number 1 defense in the country, which is only allowing half that, almost right at half, 3.57 yards per play, 5 touchdowns total. Because remember, Stetson threw a pick 6. I think it was against I want to say Vanderbilt. No, Vanderbilt didn't score on us.
Yeah.
I forgot who it was. But they have 5 touchdowns total. One of them was a pick 6. The other 4 were offensive touchdowns. And they are keeping their opponents to 208.3 yards per game, which is well under half the total that Florida is able to muster. Yeah. And here's the big kicker. They have only allowed 46 points to be scored all season in 7 games.
Wow.
That's like just over 6 points a game. Not quite 7.
Right. Wow.
Okay. I'm giving the edge to Georgia. Not because I'm a homer. Again, trust your eyes.
Right.
A lot of people hate on Stetson Bennett. I mean, even the Georgia faithful have hated on Stetson Bennett. But Stetson Bennett right now, in 6 games, has gone 57 and 82 for 996, 11 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And even that pick 6 that he threw, the pick 6 that he threw was a wheel route, and the receiver, I guess thought it was a go route. He was trying to hit the wheel route, and the back picked up on it. Receiver kept upfield, and he saw where Stetson was looking. He stepped in front of it and took it to the house. So Stetson Bennett is a doggone good quarterback. He's not the sexy quarterback, because everybody wants to see JT Daniels play, including a lot of our fan base want to see JT Daniels play. I like JT Daniels. He's a good quarterback, but he's a man of glass. I mean, he transferred here. He lost his job at USC because he got injured, and then he transferred to Georgia, and now he's been hurt. And chances are pretty good that coach is going to ride the Stetson Bennett train until it runs out. But you got these 2 quarterbacks for Florida Remember, I told you Emory Jones is a me first quarterback because he's their he likes to run. He's their leading rusher. But he and Anthony Richardson are combined for 12 interceptions. Oh,
wow.
Fun fact. Wow. Fun fact. Ask me who the second place rusher is on the University of Florida offense.
Who is it? Who's the second place rusher?
The backup quarterback, Anthony Richardson.
Wow.
So they're both me first. They're both. Hey, this play is breaking down. I'm gonna run. Now, actually, that says one of two things. Either their offensive protection is not that good, or their quarterbacks just like to run. That's just what they're used to. And Dan Mullen probably designed and drew those plays up for them specifically. Yeah. They have accounted for 17 between the two of them, 17 of the team's 33 touchdowns. So they're also roughly just over 50% of those two guys, roughly 50% of the team's offense. Their two losses. They're not bad as a team overall, but their two losses have come against ranked opponents, against Bama and Kentucky, where they've allowed 158 points scored so far this season. But even in the losses, they're still putting up some pretty gaudy numbers. They put up 29 in the loss to Bama. They put up 42. Oh, I'm sorry, in LSU. That was their other loss. They put up 42 against LSU last weekend.
I saw that.
And there's only been a 11 point differential in those losses. So they're not a bad team. They just right on the cusp. But here's the scary thing. They always manage to find a way to get up for those games. Like last year, we weren't supposed to lose to Florida last year.
Yeah.
We weren't the same squad that went to the national championship a couple of years ago.
Right.
But we weren't supposed to lose to Florida, and Florida embarrassed us.
How much better is your team this year than it was last year?
Oh, leaps and bounds. I haven't even looked up.
Was it new guys that came, or did just guys play another year?
A lot of guys came back for their senior season.
Okay. So same guys, but they just got better.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. A lot of these guys came back because pride. It was like, there's no way in hell I'm going out like this. Because they're 2-3 years ago, Big Baby Davis, who I mentioned earlier, this is 21, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, he hadn't quite gotten to Georgia, unless he was a redshirt. I think he was a redshirt the year that they made the run. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of seniors on the team that were here when they made that run to the national championship, or they were freshmen making their way in, and they're like, no, we're not gonna go out like this. We're coming back.
Right.
Now in Florida's case, their defense is pretty stout. It's not as stout as Georgia's defense, but their biggest problem is they're having a hard time getting teams off the field. It's like they'll have a team like 3rd and 11, 3rd and 15, and somehow the team will manage to get the first down. They've got 21 sacks this year and 4 picks.
Wow.
And you see how many points they're still giving up.
Right.
So
right.
They're having a hard time getting their opponents off the field this year. I'm not trying to give them any keys to the game, but I think if it's any one thing they need to work on, it's their defense. I mean, even in the Alabama game, they were slinging the ball all over the place, and if they could have converted, they might have gone down and scored the game-winning field goal. Or did they? I forget if they missed the game-winning field goal, or they were trying to.
They had an opportunity to tie it with a 2-point conversion, and then they missed a 2-point conversion. That's how they lost it. Yeah,
that's what it was. So they came close to tying up the game, taking it to overtime, but they also were in this position where their defense allowed Bama to score that many points, to where they had to be in this position. That's something they're going to have to figure out to shut down.
So you think it's more on them? You think it's more on them that they need to fix it, or you think? I mean, do you give them any credit for coming within a 2-point conversion of?
Man, look here. You asking a Georgia fan to give Florida any kind of credit, which I'm not so inclined to do.
I'm asking an analyst to make an analytical decision.
Analytically speaking, the defense needs work. Is all it boils down to. They got to figure out a way, because you got number one, your offense is going to have to figure something out. You dig what I'm saying? Um, they have played Bama. I mean, Bama was the number one team in the country, and they scored. They took Bama to the wire.
Yeah.
LSU, but on the flip side of that, they let LSU run up on them from the backside. So that's something that concerns me. That's something that concerns me a little bit because, well, actually, I take that back because Bama's defense is not nearly as fearsome as it used to be. I think I said that earlier. So I'm not too terribly worried about it. I do have one concern with the defense, which I'll get into a little bit later. But I think Florida is just Dan Mullen has got to figure out a way. He's got a whole nother week. They've had all of this week, and he's got another week to get these guys' minds right. Because Georgia is the kind of team you saw what happened last week with Kentucky. They kind of poked and prodded until they found the weak spots. And once they found the weak spots, they started blowing the doors. They started blowing the holes open. And Florida's defense is nowhere. Florida has a better ranked defense than Kentucky, supposedly, but by the NCAA rankings. But I'm just telling you, if they don't get right, them boys are gonna run it down their throats. That's just, and I hope they do. It's taking off the analyst cap and putting back on the UGA hat. Go no!
Oh yeah, no.
And matter of fact, their defense. No, I'm sorry, they had the ninth. It says they had the ninth ranked offense, but their defense is ranked 38th. So yeah. Kentucky had a higher ranked defense. Kentucky has a higher ranked defense than Florida, and we just picked and poked at them until we found the weak spots.
Gotcha.
So of course I'm giving the edge to Georgia in this one. There's not a whole heck of a lot that I could say that I haven't already said. That is the most spectacular, phenomenal college defense I have ever seen, especially from a team that I root for in an entire season, and to be able to do it consistently. Like, this is a college team that reminds me of some of the vintage crazy defenses in the pros, the grit splits, the grit splits, the purple people eaters, the 85 Bears, the Seattle Seahawks crew with the Legion of Boom. Well, actually, that was just the secondary, but the Ravens, the Steelers, the Steel Curtain. That's the kind of defense that reminds me of. So the edge I'm giving to Georgia in this one. I didn't even bother to write down the remaining games because all I wanted to talk about was Georgia, Florida, and the keys to the game. Keys to the game for Georgia, because Florida is prone to play people close to the vest, you can't afford a lot of dumb slip-ups. No dumb slip-ups. This is not the game to have the 15 penalty performance.
Yep.
This isn't it. And that's what they've been good at doing so far, is not having a whole bunch of penalties. I hope they keep that up. Hopefully we don't get any injuries and any more injuries. I've got one to report. Hopefully we don't get any more injuries. Offense has got to stay consistent. Defense has got to stay consistent. And our punt returner has got to get his act together, because he bobbled 3 punts last week.
3?
3. He bobbled. He bobbled 3 punts.
Oh.
On the injury report, we've got Kendall Milton, who ripped off an incredible run that would have gone for a touchdown in the third quarter.
Yeah.
But got pushed out of bounds. He hurt his MCL. All they said is it's an MCL injury.
Mm-hmm.
They say he's projected to miss at least 2 to 3 weeks, so he won't be available for the game. With regard to George Pickens, they said that he's able to run straight line routes. They're working on slowly integrating him into cutting and things like that. I think Kirby's playing it a little close to the vest. I think Pickens is good to go for the game, or at least for a play or two, but he doesn't want to come out outright and say he's not going to play until he's absolutely sure he's not going to play.
Right.
Same thing with JT Daniels, just saying that he's still taking light throws, and there's no word on his status yet either. So I don't think he's going to play. I think what's going to happen is, I think that Pickens might be a break in case of emergency break glass. I think he's trying to save both him and JT Daniels for the stretch if he needs them. So
Yeah.
that's where we are with that. I'm giving the edge to Georgia. And then as far as the rest of the conference, this week, now Georgia has a bye this week. I just wanted to give you the lowdown on that game because that game is in 2 weeks, and I can't come
Oh.
on and not talk about Georgia. But
Oh, okay. Yeah.
this week, Georgia and Florida both have byes. Texas and Oklahoma State have a bye. Why did I put Oklahoma State on here? Because they're not going to the SEC. Oh well. And then Auburn, Kentucky, and Missouri all have byes this week. And there will be more. There will be more byes next week. They kind of shift off week to week. So this is bye week 1. There'll be bye week 2, and then it's the race to the finish. But right now, what I've got, I don't really have much else. I think right now where I'm standing, I think that it's going to be a sprint to the finish in the West between Alabama and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of which one of the two of them blinks first. And all things considered, I think I'm going to go with Georgia. I'm going with Georgia for the SEC East.
Yeah.
And I think Georgia is capable of taking either of these two teams, although I think of the two, and this one's going to shock you, of the two, I think Mississippi's going to give us more. Ole Miss will give us more of a dogfight.
Wow.
At least from an offensive standpoint of view. But
Yeah.
you're also talking about the number 1 and the number 2 quarterback in the entire conference.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. That's it, my guy. That's all I got. You got any last word? You got one last word for us today?
No, I think that was great, man. I think that was absolutely great.
We gotta have one. We gotta come up with a closing segment. We can't just go, yep, that's all the games this week. We'll see you later. Bye. Thank you.
Well, do one of your pastors. Pastor Handy.
Oh, Pastor ain't got much to say. Pastor's out of the retreat this week. He down there in Pastor done heard about them there Luray Caverns down there between betwixt the country pastors don't say between, they say betwixt. Right. He done heard about them there Luray Caverns down betwixt Washington DC and up there where them boys play the Madison boys that play football. So he up there at the retreat with the first lady. But Pastor will be back with a word. Plus, that pastor tired. Y'all done had pastor preaching all week with the race not being given to the spirit or the battle to the strong. All I know is that this week, ladies and gentlemen, they're not going to be as many of the marquee teams playing, but you still got a full slate. You got a slate full of football this weekend. So that's what we got.
What else? What other games are you looking for? Are you looking at anything else? You said there's a full slate.
Well, yeah, we went through them already.
No, I mean, yeah.
We went through that slate of games. Savannah State this weekend is taking on Fort Valley State.
Nice.
I misspoke last week. They actually played Clark Atlanta for their homecoming. They did win 49-14. So they are still undefeated in the conference. And Jackson State University and Coach Prime just posted the highest attended the homecoming at an HBCU with the highest attendance of 55,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't see nothing like that. I mean, I've seen stadiums full before on campus, but 55,000 people they got down there for Jackson State's homecoming. So Savannah State, and Jackson State also broke into the top 25 on the FCS.
Oh, snap.
The FCS rankings in the polls.
Oh, man.
So Savannah State looking to go 6-0, undefeated in the SIAC against Fort Valley this coming weekend. Go Tigers. That's about it, my friend. If you don't have anything else for the good of the crowd, we'll go ahead and say goodnight to the good people, and we'll call it a night. So, ladies and gentlemen, we do thank you for joining us this evening. Mike Langland, if you're still there watching, appreciate you. Appreciate all of you that tuned in. Dana and Kevin Gardner and Danielle Hedgepeth and Benji and Donnie. We appreciate you guys tuning in on the Facebook. Those of you that are watching on the replay, just drop a little. If you're watching the replay, either on Facebook or YouTube, drop us a comment. Let us know you were there. If you're watching this on the YouTube page, go ahead and hit a like and a subscribe so you'll know when we get the notifications coming, because we got all kinds of content coming out. This is not it. We do this. You got Let's Talk Football. You got the Roundtable. You got Washington Football Weekly. You got Let's Talk Fantasy Football. You got the Big Nate podcast. You got the weekly review on Sundays with yours truly. So there's a whole lot of sports stuff that we're talking if you want to catch us. But that's going to do it for us this evening. So on behalf of This Week in SEC Football, I am Anthony Handy.
I'm Sean Spencer.
And this has been This Week in SEC Football. We will catch you all. You will catch you good people next week. Y'all take care.
Your new home for podcasts and original music.
The Zagnif One Radio Network.